A single mother rushed to the hospital to save her sick child, and when she returned, she found an email saying, "You're fired." The arrogant CEO thought no one would challenge his decision until he walked into Judge Judy's courtroom. What happened next left the CEO speechless and the entire courtroom on its feet. Stay until the end, because Judge Judy's unexpected response changed everything. She thought missing one day of work would cost her a paycheck. She never imagined it would cost her career. But when an arrogant CEO fired a single mother for staying home with her sick child, he believed no one could challenge his decision. He was about to discover that Judge Judy doesn't tolerate power being used to crush ordinary people. The courtroom was completely silent as the case began. Judge Judy adjusted her glasses and looked down at the file in front of her. On one side stood 32-year-old Sarah Mitchell, a single mother dressed in a simple navy blue blouse. She looked exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes showed weeks of stress, but she stood proudly, refusing to let her emotions break her. Across the courtroom stood Richard Collins, the wealthy CEO of a successful marketing company. Wearing a tailored designer suit and an expensive watch, he stood confidently with his arms folded. He didn't appear worried. In fact, he looked annoyed that he even had to be there. Judge Judy looked at both parties. "Miss S. Mitchell, why are you suing your former employer?" Sarah took a deep breath. "Your Honor, I was fired because I stayed home to take care of my 7-year-old son when he became seriously ill." Judge Judy nodded. "Tell me exactly what happened." Sarah explained that she had worked for Collins Marketing Group for nearly 5 years. She had never received a disciplinary warning. Her performance reviews were excellent, and she had even received Employee of the Month twice. "I loved my job," she said. "I always arrived early. I stayed late whenever they needed me. Then everything changed one Monday morning. Around 3 o'clock, Sarah received a frantic phone call from her son's elementary school. He had developed a very high fever and was struggling to stay awake. The school nurse urged her to pick him up immediately. Without hesitation, Sarah informed her supervisor, completed her urgent work, and left the office. Doctors later diagnosed her son with severe pneumonia. He remained hospitalized for several days. Sarah stayed by his bedside day and night. "My son was terrified," she told the court. "He kept asking me not to leave him." Several audience members quietly nodded. Parents understood exactly how she felt. After 3 days, Sarah emailed medical documents to her employer explaining the emergency. She believed everything would be fine. Instead, she received a short email from the company's CEO. "Your position has been terminated effective immediately due to failure to meet company attendance expectations." Sarah stared at the email in disbelief. She called Human Resources. No one answered. She emailed again. Still nothing. 5 years of loyalty had ended with a single email. Judge Judy slowly turned toward Richard Collins. "Mr. Collins, did you fire this woman while her child was in the hospital?" Richard answered without emotion. "Yes." The courtroom immediately filled with whispers. Judge Judy raised an eyebrow. "And why?" Richard shrugged. "Our company depends on reliability. We cannot allow employees to disappear whenever personal issues arise." Sarah couldn't believe what she was hearing. "My son was hospitalized," she said. Richard remained calm. "Every employee has personal problems. If I make one exception, everyone expects special treatment." Several audience members shook their heads. Judge Judy leaned forward. "Did Miss S. Mitchell notify her supervisor before leaving?" "Yes." "Did she provide medical documentation?" "Yes." "Had she been a good employee before this incident?" Richard hesitated. "Yes," Judge Judy continued. "So she worked faithfully for 5 years. Had an excellent record, informed management immediately, provided hospital records." "And you still decided to fire her?" Richard answered confidently. "I believe business comes before emotions." The courtroom fell completely silent. Judge Judy slowly removed her reading glasses. Everyone recognized that look. It was the expression she wore whenever someone had just said something they would soon regret. She looked directly at Richard. "Business comes before humanity?" Richard confidently nodded. "Absolutely." Several audience members gasped. Judge Judy quietly closed the case file. Then she smiled. But it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile that meant someone was about to receive a lesson they would never forget. The courtroom waited in complete silence. No one knew exactly what Judge Judy was about to say, but everyone knew Richard Collins's confidence was about to be tested. The courtroom remained completely silent. Judge Judy looked directly at Richard Collins. Her voice was calm, but every word carried weight. "Mr. Collins, let me ask you something. If your own child were lying in a hospital bed, struggling to breathe, would you go to work, or would you stay with your child? Richard hesitated. For the first time since the hearing began, he didn't have an immediate answer. Finally, he said quietly, "I would stay with my child." Judge Judy nodded. "Exactly." She leaned forward. "So why do you expect your employees to do something you wouldn't do yourself?" The audience erupted into applause. Richard shifted uncomfortably. Judge Judy quickly restored order. "This courtroom is not impressed by expensive suits or executive titles," she said. "We're interested in fairness." She turned to Sarah. "Mrs. Mitchell, during your 5 years with the company, did you receive any written warnings?" "No, Your Honor." "Were you ever disciplined for attendance?" "Never." "Were your performance reviews positive?" "Every single one." Judge Judy looked back at Richard. "So your best employee had one family emergency, and your solution was to fire her immediately?" Richard folded his arms. "Our attendance policy is clear," Judge Judy interrupted. "A policy without common sense is a bad policy." The courtroom became quiet again. Judge Judy continued reviewing the documents. She discovered that Sarah had emailed her supervisor before leaving work. She had submitted hospital records the very next day. She had even offered to work remotely while sitting beside her son's hospital bed. The company refused. Judge Judy held up the printed emails. "These messages show Mrs. Mitchell did everything a responsible employee could reasonably do." Richard remained silent. Then Judge Judy noticed another document. It was an internal company email sent by Richard himself. The message read, "We cannot allow personal family issues to interfere with company productivity. Anyone unable to meet expectations will be replaced immediately." Judge Judy slowly lowered the paper. "So that's your philosophy?" Richard answered confidently. "Yes." Judge Judy stared at him for several seconds. "Mr. Collins, people are not machines. They're human beings. They get sick, their children get sick. The true character of a leader is revealed by how they treat people during difficult moments." The audience nodded. Sarah quietly wiped away tears. Judge Judy continued, "You didn't fire this woman because she was irresponsible. You fired her because compassion wasn't included in your business plan." Richard finally tried to defend himself. "I was only protecting my company," Judge Judy immediately replied. "And who protects the people who helped build your company?" Richard had no answer. The courtroom fell silent once again. Judge Judy reviewed the final paperwork before announcing her decision. "Based on the evidence presented today, I find that Mrs. Mitchell acted responsibly by notifying her employer, providing medical documentation, and caring for her seriously ill child." She looked directly at Sarah. "No parent should ever be forced to choose between keeping a job and sitting beside a sick child." Sarah broke into tears. Judge Judy then faced Richard. "You may own a successful business, but leadership without compassion is simply poor management." She ordered Richard to compensate Sarah for her unpaid wages, lost benefits, and other financial damages allowed under the court's authority. Richard's confident smile disappeared. He hadn't expected the hearing to end this way. Before closing the case, Judge Judy offered one final message that left the courtroom applauding. "Success isn't measured by how much money you make. It's measured by how you treat people when they need understanding the most." Sarah thanked the judge with tears in her eyes. As she walked out of the courtroom, she wasn't just leaving with justice. She was leaving with her dignity restored. Richard remained standing quietly, realizing that one cold-hearted decision had cost him far more than money. Sometimes the most important lesson in business isn't found in a boardroom. It's learned in a courtroom, where compassion matters just as much as the rules.